Don't intend to leave anything out, no matter what it costs. So don't feel, well, you don't need it, because you don't need it now. Not that you're going to fall behind, but that you would not be able to understand the things that are coming, because it will be based on a strict and rigid because it's inflexible. You can't change it to suit your own mind. And this rigid teaching that is spiritual in its depths. And I may as well state to you from the very onset, just in case we can't continue, that this work was such a large work that Jesus had to use a succession of prophets to complete the information that is in the way of the Lord. And I will confess to you, I was ignorant of these verses until this week. It's not like I knew them all along and was hiding them from you. But what the Lord declares to me and brings alive in me, I'm going to bring to you. Isaiah 26 and 7. The way, 734 in Strong's, please. The Hebrew for what has been translated correctly as the way. But there's something particular about this way which you need to understand that is not present by the other word that's also used for the way. 734. Orak. Do you see it? And it's from 732 to travel. Orak. A well-trodden road. Also a caravan. I want you to remember, keep that caravan within your mind, because it indicates not the succession of works that have to do with our salvation, individual, but rather that many have gone on this way before. Is a trek back to the Father. It's not a way that one person is using. We all only have access to this one way back to the Father. It's the only caravan, the only way that you can get back to Him. No, I'm not standing in judgment on anybody's theosebes, as long as it is based on the spiritual works of our original creation in the Rima age. I'm not judging whether anybody's work is as high as mine. I'm not judging that. I'm not saying that there are works that are different to mine. There are works that are different to mine. What counts is whether you have the assurance within you to know that it is God who reveals something to you that you're being connected to by your obedience. There is only one way. And this way is defined for us in the Bible. And it says, the way of the just, to be right, to be righteous. Isaiah 26:7. The way of the righteous is uprightness. Stop there, please. The way of the Lord, once we are in it, makes us right with the Lord. And not only right, but because we're in a right relationship with God, the result or the outcome of that is uprightness. We have the capability to set aside our moral depravity in the long run, because we have submitted ourselves to a steady course of spiritual connections by Christ Jesus. That is what this is saying. The way of the Lord, once we're in it, makes us righteous. And because of that fact that we're connected to Jesus Christ, while on the other side, we are no longer in our physical condition, but we have set aside our physical condition because we have been connected by Jesus Christ to the nature in which we were originally created in. We are connected to that nature. And when you're connected to that nature, you're not of a physical condition anymore. and moral depravity does not enter into the picture, it's not a bother to you. Why? Because your mind is not set on those things, but rather on the things that are spiritual in Jesus Christ. I believe that is quite clear, isn't it? Thank you. The second part of verse 7. Thou most upright. Now I have, in all sincerity and truth, I have to indicate to you that they have arrived at this conclusion by ways and means other than conclusive physical evidence. If you'll go to 34:77, you'll see what I mean. But obviously it is correct that they're speaking about God, the most upright. But the original Hebrew does not suggest this in 34:77. And you need to see these because you need to be aware of the fact that there are things other than physical evidence that we rely on in our Christian walk. Who is at the right page? All it says is, "Thou shalt," straight. God, the straight one, the one who is upright, the holy one, the pure one, does weigh. I want you to look at that because it's really very sweet. 64:24. Brethren, what is it? 64:24. We're sticking with the Strongs at the back of the book. To roll flat, to prepare a road. Who sees it? That has been prepared when? Prepared when? Like yesterday? God doesn't exist in yesterday. He exists in another realm. In the realm of the spiritual kingdom. So it can't be yesterday. It has to be in the ages where he can exist. How sound? I mean, it's very simply, this way was prepared for us before what? Before the material creation. It's there. It's right there on the path. The problem is we don't have access to that preparation in our natural mind. This is the problem. This is the problem that God introduced into the system so that we would have to rely on him. It's not about prophesying the future. It's not about knowing what's going to happen in your life. It's about knowing the ancient past. Isaiah alludes to it all the time. He explicitly also states it on more than one occasion. That it's not what is coming that's important, but what has already been passed. The flow that has already flowed. In the spiritual ages, that is what we need. God has prepared the path of the just. It's been prepared. God didn't do it yesterday. He did it in the realm that he exists in. I mean, could you want it any clearer? Look at verse 8. Yea, in the orak, in the way of thy judgments. What is a judgment? Now remember, okay? Stay with me. Remember that Isaiah is speaking about something that the Lord revealed to him. And Isaiah is saying, there's something that he's speaking about is this way which was prepared beforehand. Is it plain or not to you from verse 6? He's speaking about a way. And he's speaking about something that was prepared before the physical creation. Then he says, in the way of thy judgments, in the way of thy verdict, your decisions. Decisions about what? Decisions about what? Verdict about what? About the plants? About the sea? About what? About your way. The decisions that he made and that he implemented regarding your spiritual creation. In other words, all the things that he conceived of and designed, those decisions that were implemented, reflecting what he had designed and conceived of, those are the things that is referred to here, not of the judgment of the wicked, but of the decisions of the ancient past with regards to specific individual, original spiritual creation from the next side. It says, in those decisions and in the implementation of those things, have we waited for thee? Look at there. We're going to wait for you in those decisions. It is in those things that you made, in those things that you decided that we have partial access to. It is in the things that Jesus Christ made before the material creation. It is in those things that we are going to find him. It's easy. When he shows you those things and you're connected to him, we wait. We wait to be connected to those things that you show us, because we know that we're going to find you in those things. I'm not making this thing up. It's here. It's here in black and white for everybody who is of sound mind and who has a little doubt about their own rebellious spirit, who has a doubt about the way that they're in. Just open yourselves and you're going to see the physical proof are on these pages in Isaiah. Let me just leave that for a second if I can, and go to 1 Peter 1, please. First Peter 1, don't leave that in Isaiah, because I'm not finished with it, please. I'm not finished with it. 1 Peter 1, 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 10. Of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently. Verse 9. The completion of your faith, the purpose of your faith, which is the salvation of your soul. The purpose of your conforming, your being persuaded to conform, the purpose of your being persuaded to conform, and your conforming to what you are shown, the salvation of your souls. All this teaching that I'm giving you, the prophets already knew, of which salvation the prophets inquired and searched, who prophesied of the grace that should come to us, and that was available to them. That's why they wrote this stuff, searching what manner of time the Spirit of Christ, which was in them as they were connected to Jesus Christ on the other side, did signify when it testified beforehand, not just of the sufferings of Jesus Christ, but everything that we are experiencing today. Isaiah was saved by the same method as Adam could have been saved, and as we can be saved today. The same method. It's a way. You can read the progression in Isaiah's work. It's very prominent that he is moving towards a conclusion at the end of his work. It's very evident. You don't have to ask. And then you're wondering, well, there's so much repetition in Isaiah's work. That's what you think. You haven't studied it properly. You haven't understood it. Because every time Isaiah repeats something, he's bringing to the fore a new perspective or a new detail that you cannot see with your natural mind. And you think it's repetitive. You're repeating yourself. It sounds, why is it so? It's not repetitive. You think it's repetitive because you haven't understood it. Back to Isaiah, please, if you would. Isaiah 26 and 8. In this way that I've described to you, in the way of your decisions and our access to these decisions, our access to the knowledge of these decisions, O Lord, have we waited for thee? The desire of our soul is to thy name. Isaiah did not know the name of the Lord. So was Isaiah saying, speaking just of us, or was he also including himself? He was also including himself. And I would like you to go to the Hebrew word for name. Because those of you who insist that it is name, there's nothing that I can do for you. It's 80:34. Those who insist on belief going to insist that it's the name. It's not the name. And if you knew Hebrew, you would understand the essence of the term name. 80:34 is the number in Strong's. And it's funny, everybody has a strong concordance in their possession, but none of them can follow these numbers that I'm calling. And I'm wondering, what on earth do they have the concordance for? The numbers that we're calling is just a number that's in Strong's. And everybody knows Greek and everybody knows Hebrew, but I don't understand logos nor rem or nothing. What do you find in 80:34? Shame. The Hebrew word for name is shame. Let me rephrase that. The Hebrew word that was translated as name is shame. And it says, through the idea of definite and conspicuous position, an appellation as a mark or memorial of individuality, something that distinguishes you from all else. Now, if it were the name of Jesus, or the name of the Father, or the name Jehovah, that name is a name like all of the names, and it does not distinguish itself from other names by the fact of its name. What makes Jesus different from all of the names is the fact of what is written here. By implication, honor, authority, and character. Please see it. Honor, authority, and character. That is what distinguishes the person of Jesus, not the name. This is what distinguishes the person of Jesus Christ from all other people. In his honor, in his authority, and in his character. There's none like him. No other name under heaven. It's speaking of the nature of Jesus Christ, not his name. If you insist on saying the name of Jesus is what counts, then there is nothing that this brother can do for you. And you may stay in your ignorance forever until you understand wide open eyes that you are before your judge who proclaims you ignorant because you have remained in the realm of the physical, rejecting every spiritual truth that came your way because you desire it. Who is there?
Amen. Amen.
It's all a decision. Our decision. Nobody can make it for you whether you want to stay in your ignorance or whether you want to move on. Isaiah 30:21. The good thing about using the original languages is that we are using languages that are concise and definite in description. They have depth of understanding that the English does not have. Isaiah 30 and 21. And thine ears. I have to declare to you that this is not speaking of natural ears, but of our spiritual ears. And in the Hebrew language, if you turn to 241, you will understand what I'm saying. Turn with me, please. I'm giving you precept by precept and article and ordinance by ordinance. Article by article and clause by clause and proof by proof. I'm going step by step. If at the end of this teaching you do not understand what I'm talking about, it's because you don't want to know. Because you cherish your moral depravity and do not seek a way out of it. 241. Ozen, the Hebrew word. Ozen. Now everybody's telling me, why are you using the numbers? Why don't you call the Hebrew or the Greek name? I'm calling it. Let's hope that you understand it. It says, Ozen, broadness. The ear. It's broadness. It's not just the ear. It's hearing on a level that's different than with the senses. Has to do with broadness, has to do with the expanding of our broadness, being an expanded vessel. If you go back to 241 and check 238, you'll see it says, probably to expand, to broaden out the ear. I wonder if you see that one. It's not speaking of a physical hearing, but of a hearing that is beyond physical hearing. It's another type of hearing, which is the spiritual hearing. That defines the tone of this verse. If you understand that, then I won't have to go much further to explain to you that this is speaking not of a physical communication, of something that's written or heard in physical teaching, but rather something that is of a spiritual nature in communication. And thine spiritual ears shall hear a word, a dow bowl. 1697. Just check it for me quickly if you can. In Strong's. 1697. A word, by implication, a matter as spoken of or thing. And I've spent many hours explaining to you that there are two parts of this spiritual communication. Two parts. One is the declaration in Jesus Christ, and the second part is our response to that communication, which is our submission to what we have been shown in a real sense, not in an attitude, but in a real sense, because we function in that physical expression, expressing what we see in a physical way for others to see and perceive with their senses. And thy ears have heard a dull bowl behind thee saying, this is the way, walk ye in it. God lets us know. He lets us know by a spiritual communication, it cannot be a physical one, that this is what He desires for us. That we shall be instructed. We're instructed in this way by Jesus Christ in a spiritual communication, not in a physical one. Just quickly flip over to 35:8. Do you see where it says, though fools shall not err therein? Do you see it? In Isaiah 35:8. It's not a matter of trial and error. You can't wander into that direction because your eyes have not seen, your ears have not heard, and it cannot enter into your imagination the things that God has already done for you on the other side. You can't. Therefore, not what He has prepared for you to live in forever, but what He has prepared for you so that you experience it now. And the ignorant cannot stray. You cannot err. You cannot stray. I wonder if I'm here. Maybe I need to show you this word. The word that is translated as 85:82. Are you looking at Isaiah 35:8? Okay, look at the word in Strong's for 85:82. Tell me what you see. To vacillate from one thing to the next. Now you're one thing, tomorrow you're something else. I can depend on you today. Tomorrow I don't know where you are because you've gone somewhere. To reel or to stray. Who sees stray? I need an answer, please. Amen. Who sees that 85:82 is to stray? Amen. You can't stray. You can't guess your way into the dough bowl. It has to be revealed to you by Jesus Christ in a spiritual communication. You can't guess it. Nobody can tell it to you because they need to know their own. Who is here with me, please? Amen. You can't do it by trial and error. It's not going to happen to you by mistake. You have to mean it. We shall be, just 1 second back in Isaiah 30, we shall be instructed in this way by spiritual communication, a communication that is not physical, my brethren. And the ignorant, that is those who do not know God, who cannot see God, cannot stumble onto that way. Let me just clearly state something that I see. Unless you see God, you're going to hell. Because you won't have access to the way. To think that it's impossible to see God is of the stuff of ignorance. It is of the material that ignorance is made from. And what I'm saying is, the Lord Himself says by Isaiah that we can be instructed in the way of the Lord when we see Christ. And the ignorant cannot stumble into this way. It's not by chance that we shall be instructed on this way. Because we see God, and the fact of our seeing God expands our mind. Isaiah 35:8. We always wondered about Isaiah 35:8, didn't we? We always wondered about it, what it means. Well, now we found out without a shadow of a doubt exactly what God was intended to say in Isaiah 35:8, and a highway. I want you to look at that word. That's another word in Hebrew. What is a highway? Let's find out first the Greek, the Hebrew for this. 45:47, please. 45:47. A thoroughfare. It's a broad road. It's a highway. Do you know what a highway is? It's easy to find. It's not hard to find. If you go up on a mountain and you look down, you're going to see the highway because it's so wide. If you're close to Jesus Christ, if you made yourself near to God by restraining your moral depravity, the highway, the way of the Lord is going to be clear. It is not just a caravan where people have gone on before us and others are following, trailing behind us, but it's a highway. The way is broad, not that you can do anything, but that it is easy to find. This way is a simple way. It's not a difficult way. It's not an impossible way as we think it is with our natural mind. It is an easy way to find because it's so big. Because Jesus has done all the work, and all we have to do is find Jesus Christ by stifling our own moral depravity. What was the Hebrew for that word? We need to just mark it down, please. One more time, 45, 47. Maslul. A thoroughfare. It's easy to find. And a way. This is the major one that we need to focus on. 1870. The others are just revealing things that God wants us to know about His way. This is the major Hebrew word that we need to remember when we are speaking of the way of the Lord. It's number 1870 in Strong's. It's Deh Rek. Deh Rek. A road as trodden. Figuratively, a course of life. It's a course through this physical life. It's not our journey through this life. It's a particular type of a course that is identified by the physical expressions that God desires from us, while discarding all the other times of our physical existence until all these physical expressions make the course. I wonder if you're there. The course is not our physical lifespan, but it's all the expressions that we function in being joined together to make a straight line back to the Father. It's a course of life or a mode of action. Mode of action referring to the dough bowl, to the spiritual cycle, reflecting the creation of ourselves in the Rima age. I wonder if you're there still. It is Deh Rek, and it shall be called the way of holiness. It's a way where there is dedication and purity. Remember, I defined it not as our lifespan, not as all the time that we're a physical existence, but only those times when we are functioning in physical expressions and works of God. At those times, are we dedicated and pure? Are you getting my drift? It is only at those times that we are dedicated and pure. Full stop. The unclean or defiled shall not pass over it. If your moral depravity is having a sway in your life, you will not experience this road back to the Father. It will not end at the end of your life in your return to the Father. The unclean shall not pass over this walk. They shall not experience those works of God that are necessary for our salvation, reflecting the spiritual connections of the other side. But it shall be for those wayfaring men is incorrect. It is to walk in the way. That is all it is. 1980 is to walk and 1870 is the way. To walk in the way. It shall be for those who walk in that way, and fools shall not stray therein. It's not by chance. You're not going to find that way by chance. For you to pass over it, these are some of the things that you must note. For you to pass on this road, which is not our lifespan, which is not from the time we're born until the time we die, but it is only those events that are the results of things that Jesus Christ shows us spiritually that we allow ourselves to function in. When you join those things together, that is the highway. For you to pass on this highway, you must be clean first. You must have set aside your moral depravity first, or you will never pass on this road. If you're in your physical condition, you cannot pass on this road. You're in need of purification. The second point to note is that the reversal of our physical condition, which comes from this spiritual connection, is being reflected in this. When it says holiness, or to be dedicated and pure, the purity comes from the fact that we are connected to the spiritual work on the other side, not the fact of the physical expression. What makes us pure is not the physical expression, it is a fact that while we are working the physical expression, that we are in a spiritual connection to Jesus Christ on the other side. I wonder if you're still there. I would like you all to stay with me, please. Because it is only now that we can build on the foundation that we have laid. Now is not the time to get fatigued, but the time to get energized in Jesus Christ. You see, you can travel all your life, and you can arrive at the end of your life, and you may feel fatigued and still use your salvation. Anybody there? You sure? I'm not sure anybody's there. Quickly with me, Isaiah, we're going to get through this. Isaiah 40:14. I'm giving you also justification from what I've said. Isaiah 40:14. Let's stick with it, concentrate, don't study anybody. Don't look at your brother or your sister. Look at your book and look at yourself. Focus. That's the name of the game. You want to have success in life? You need focus. Whether it's in physical things or in spiritual things. If you don't focus on what you want, you're never going to get it. If you have a task at hand, if you are flighty and going from one thing to the next, you're never going to accomplish anything in your life. The only way to accomplish anything in life, even in a physical way, is to concentrate your efforts. That is what focus is. Concentrate your energy to the things that mean something. Isaiah 40:14. With whom took he counsel? God. And who instructed Christ and taught him in the path of judgment and taught him knowledge and showed to him the way of understanding, the way of intelligence, the way that makes sense. Notice 1870, Deh Rek. Deh Rek. If someone had taught Jesus Christ, then we could have found out this way by another person. But it's nobody, it's just Jesus Christ. It's just Christ, it's just God. So you have got to go for him. You can't come to me. You can't go to another pastor. You can't go to any church because they do not have this way, this Deh Rek. This way of the Lord is found only in Jesus Christ. If you submit to him because he reveals something spiritually to you. Moving on. If you would with me, please. Isaiah 42 and 16. And I will walk the blind by a way that they know not. He's going to walk. That same word in Hebrew that keeps repeating itself. And I will walk the blind. You know what it means to walk the blind? If somebody is blind, how do you walk them? How do you walk them? You hold their hand and you walk them. Like you're walking a dog. You draw them along with you. That is how he walks the blind. And Jesus Christ will walk the blind by a way, Deh Rek, that they do not know. I want you to check into that Hebrew word quickly with me if you can. Let's energize ourselves, please. Quickly. 30:45. To know, to ascertain by seeing, to experience, my brethren. And I will walk the blind by a Deh Rek, by a way that they do not know. They don't experience it for themselves. God is going to make sure that we see it by Him being our eyes. We can't see for ourselves this way. He has to make it clear and plain to us. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked straight. I wonder if you're there with me. These double, not things, these double declaration and spiritual connections will I do unto them and not forsake them. When we speak of the double, I just said a few minutes ago that there are two aspects of it, two parts of it. One is the communication of the knowledge or the spiritual revelation, the spiritual communication. The second one was the spiritual connection that follows because we submit to what was shown to us. Amen? Amen. The two parts are very clearly stated in this verse. I will make darkness light before them. Light is always a shadow for a spiritual communication. And he's saying, I'm going to spiritually communicate to them what it is that I require of them. Are you there? That's the first part. Look at the second part. And crooked straight. I want you to turn to 46:25 with me, please. 46:25 is Ma'ach Aush. A crook in the road, a crooked road. From 61:40. Turn to 61:40 with me, please. We nearly finished our time, not the teaching. So bear up, please. Pull yourself together if you can. You have all tomorrow to sleep spiritually, to become a physical being and laze and bask in the sun. Today, let us strive for God. 61:40, to pervert. Do you see it? Awkash, Hebrew for to pervert. Perverted things, He's going to make straight or unperverted. Now, how is God going to make us as a perverted vessel, a vessel that insists on error? You see, when people insist on saying that believing is enough, that is a perverted vessel, a mind that is perverted. They're insisting on remaining in their ignorance. And what the Lord is saying is that he's going to take the perverted and he's going to make them unperverted. He's going to straighten them out. Now, how does he do that? He can only do that if we respond to what he has shown us. But without the declaration, he can't take you anywhere. The only way that our nature is going to be reversed is when we submit to what he has shown us. There you have the two elements of the door bow being expressed in Isaiah 42:16. And I will walk the blind by the way that they cannot see. Are you there? They can't see it. They can't ascertain it by seeing it. But I'm going to walk them. I'm going to take them by the hand and walk them in a way that they could never know on their own. And I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will show them. I will reveal things to them. And then when they submit to me, I will connect them to that spiritual walk on the other side so that they become unperverted, so their nature would be reversed. These door bow will I do unto them and will not forsake them. What does that mean? When Jesus said, I will not forsake you nor leave you, it has to do in relationship, in our relationship, in relation to what is being said in the verse. It's not pulled out of a hat, out of context. You have to deal with it. You have to deal with the fact of Jesus saying he will not forsake us. God would not forsake us in the context of the verse. What is the context of the verse? The context of the verse is, as long as we are submitting to him, he's connecting us to things that are on the other side. He's not going to loosen us. He's not going to kick us out of the way. We can take ourselves out of the way if we refuse to submit to him. If you refuse to submit to him, it's not he who's leaving you. It's you who have taken yourself out of the course, out of the way. You can't just take that out of hand and say, well, boy, this is what God means no matter what I do. I saw on somebody's t-shirt yesterday, it says, where I go, God goes. And I'm saying that that's a lie. Because God is not going to go where you are going. God is only with you. You're only with God on the other side in the instances that you are submissive to a specific work that is there. It's only then that you're in obedience in fact and not in obedience in attitude. And what counts is real obedience. It's very plain. It's all here for us to see it, only perhaps we do not wish to see it. We don't want to see it, brethren. It's all here. You can't pretend that it's not there because it's there. It's all spelled out by the prophets for us. Only we do not desire to have it because it is going to cramp our style. Because it's going to mean that I can't do what I used to do. Because if I have to remain outside of my moral depravity, I'm going to suffer loss in my physical condition. And I really desire to enjoy all the physical things in life. And as long as you have not reached to a level where you can say to yourselves and can control yourself that you desire Christ Jesus and mean it, then your life is going to be a loss. You're going to be in vacillation from one thing to the next without any possibility of any help. Isaiah 59, quickly with me. We're coming to the end of our time, not the end of the teaching. (59:8). The way of peace they have not known, and there is no judgment in their goings. They have made crooked paths. Whosoever goeth therein shall not know peace. It's simple. You want peace with God? You want peace in your life? You have to submit to Christ. There's no other way. And you have to submit to Christ, not just in attitude, but you have to submit to Christ in specific works as He leads you in a way that is progressive and progressing back to the Father. Jeremiah 2:18, if you will, is a lot of ways that's available to people, but only one true way that is defined by the prophets and by Christ and by the apostles. It's only one true way. No, you can embrace a religion if you don't care about your eternal salvation. You can embrace any of the ways that are so rampant in this country. You have so many different churches, everybody preaching a different way. You can have them. But if you choose this church, then you must choose the way of uprightness, of restraining your own moral depravity. You must. I would prefer that we would be 5 in here, or 6, or 7, or 2, rather than for us to be 20 and we're just in a form. What counts is that this ministry must do the work of the day. We must be involved in the work that Jesus Christ has given us to do. Whether people embrace it or not, it will not count against our salvation once we manifest these spiritual works in a physical way, because that is all we can do. I cannot force to show someone a spiritual communication if they are rejecting the master of that spiritual communication himself. If you're rejecting Jesus, how can you have the communication that is going to emanate from his person? It will never happen. Jeremiah 2:18, and now what hast thou to do in the way of Egypt, to drink the water of Sihor? Or what hast thou to do in the way of Assyria, to drink the waters of the river? It's a lot of ways. It's a lot of ways that's available to you, my brethren. You need to choose one. But don't vacillate. Go from one thing to the next. One day you're in church, the next day you're not. Sunday in church, Monday you're gone somewhere else, and you're back to your old self. Let this not be an exercise in futility, but one in which can enter to the salvation of your soul. Look at verse 19, if you would. Thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy own backslidings. Now I want you to look at the Hebrew for this word, so you understand exactly the nature of 48:78. Come with me, we nearly finished in time. 48:78. What do you see there? I want someone to call it, please. Apostasy, thank you. It's not backsliding as of the ignorant. It's apostasy. It's a falling away from the truth. It's a falling away by the church from the truth. It's speaking about Christian churches. It's not speaking about the heathen. It's not speaking about those who believe in false gods. It's speaking about those who should know better. It's speaking about apostasy, about all the false ways that's available to people from the Christian church, quote unquote, which has nothing to do with God, which has nothing to do with Christ. Thine own wickedness shall correct thee. when you're not teaching the elders and the leaders in the church to set aside their moral depravity, the wickedness of those who are in leadership position is going to be obvious to the entire world. I don't need to spell it out for you. You know what I'm talking about, or what the Lord is showing you. When the church does not insist that every member set aside its moral depravity, then the people who are in the church are without standard, and they can not restrain. They can live in a situation where they do not have to restrain their moral depravity. And the whole world is going to know of all the incidences where the leaders of the church do wrong things. And then they're going to have to correct themselves. When they are sued and when things are revealed in the press, then they are going to have to correct themselves. Their own wickedness shall correct them. Their own wickedness shall correct them, and thy apostasy, the fact of your falling away, shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy God, and that my fear is not in thee, saith the Lord of hosts. When we don't preach fear of the Lord and true submission, not submission in attitude, but true obedience, this is what is going to happen. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidest, I will not transgress. When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest, playing the harlot. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine. This is the word of the Lord. God only says what is true. Jeremiah 3:21 with me. I'm almost finished. In time. My time is finishing. Jeremiah 3:21, a voice was heard upon the high places. In the religious places, that's the high places. The places where people go to venerate and to adore with their mind. This is what was heard in religious places. Weeping and supplications of the children of Israel. Weepings and supplications, prayers of the church. Why? Because they're not in the way of the Lord, and they're reaching out to their God with their physical voices. And if we can understand a dog's bark, God can understand our physical words. And there is a parable in the Bible drawn between dogs and the religious. You hear them in church. They're always screaming out. They're bawling out. They're crying out. Why? Because they're in the ways of the wicked and do not know God. There's a void in their life that they're trying to fill with physical things, and it can't be done. Behold, we come unto thee, for thou art the Lord our God, but not in obedience. It says in verse 22, return ye backsliding children, and I will heal your backslidings. I will heal your apostasy. Behold, we come unto thee, for thou art the Lord our God. The religious go to God, but not in a real way. You cannot be taken to God on the other side if your moral depravity is having its way in your life. Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills and from the multitude of mountains. Truly in the Lord our God is the salvation of Israel. It's not in physical